You are in one of the most famous pictures that is published of in the Situation Room with President Obama flanked on one side of you with Vice President Biden, Secretary Clinton, Defense Secretary Bob Gates, and others in the room, Chairman of Joint Chiefs behind you, Director of CIA, and also Director of Intelligence to the left of you. What are everybody is crowded around you. What are you looking at on your computer at the time? I know you're not doing email. I hope you're not doing email.
I like to tell people, I get asked 3 questions about that picture. One, what are you doing so overdressed compared to everybody else? 2, what are you doing sitting in the president's chair? And 3, what are you doing changing your Facebook status in the middle of the operation? So, as you can expect, our communications connectivity was all connected with the mission that was happening downrange in theater, and I was on chat rooms and other software that we have that keeps track of how the mission's unfolding, so that I could best really my job in there was to really be the shell answer man, to be able to explain to all the principals that were in the room what was going on, and really kind of provide that level of information so that Admiral McCraven and his charges could accomplish the mission.
Do you have an aide or somebody with you earlier in the day or the day before? Are you making sure that all the software, everything is dry run, that everything is working to a T for when you're with the President of the United States the next day during the operation, that there's no blackout, no communications, no technology glitches?
Yes. If you look closely in that picture, and his name is Rob Launders. He's in the Army still today. He's a command sergeant major. At the time, a master sergeant. The back of his head is in the foreground of that picture. And when I was told to go up there a couple days before the mission, Admiral McCraven said, "Hey, get up there and get in the White House and set this thing up," which sounds easier than it was to pull off. But I was basically when I showed up, they said, "Hey, you're the only one that can come in, just you." And I said, "Well, I might as well go home because I'm worthless without the communication specialist that I brought with me." And so I was able to convince them over a couple hours that Rob needed to be in the room. And Rob, of course, ran all that gear that you see that's in the room.
And what's Rob's last name again?
Launders.
So next time I have a problem with the computer,
absolutely,
he is the person to call.
He is the man.
Okay.
Absolutely.
How long were you in the Situation Room, since I know you don't sleep?
Well, the day of execution, which of course was Sunday in Washington time, I showed up about 8 o'clock in the morning and left the Monday morning at 2 a.m. Yeah. So it was a lot of preparatory work, as you would expect, and then of course there was a lot of post actions that had to occur in the White House that I was around for.
Did you eat during this period?
We had quite a pizza celebration after the president made the announcement at 11:30 or so that night.
So from 8 in the morning, so basically you don't eat the whole day at all.
Well, it was kind of busy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Tell me what type of interaction is going on between you and the main, most powerful principles of power of the U.S. government throughout this time in the room.
Right. It varied over time. I would just tell you that this plan, as it was laid out, was that I was to have been, first of all, the Situation Room is a little bit of a misnomer of a name. The Situation Room is workspace, and it has a series of conference rooms, about 4 of them. And there's a main conference room, and that was envisioned to where all the main principals would be: the president, the vice president, secretary of defense, etc. And what they said is, hey, we kind of control access to the president, but we obviously value your input here. We're going to set you up in this little ante room, it's a little kind of sidebar conference room. You can have your equipment, and if there's a question or something that needs to be answered, we'll send a runner or we'll come get you, and you can come explain to us what's going on. So that was the theory of how this was going to go down. What actually happened, of course, was over time, as the mission started to unfold, the vice president was the first one that came in, and then Secretary Clinton. I remember those two specifically, and they were very interested in the mission and wanted to be kind of briefed on what they would potentially see and how everything was progressing. So just really, really solid second, third, and fourth order type of questions that you would expect that your government leadership would be asking. I mean, it was a really good engagement. As the mission started to unfold and there was a lot of question on what was going on, time becomes a blur, frankly, in my mind, and the room was full. I don't remember exactly how that all happened, but it seemed like in a snap of fingers the room was full. The president was reluctant to enter because he didn't want to be tempted to put his hands on driving a mission. He was very cognizant of that. I remember the vice president saying, Mr. President, you need to get in here, you need to see this. And about the time that the helicopters arrived on scene, he came in the room. And so just for the record, I did offer him my seat to sit at the head of the table. And he grabbed my shoulders and pushed me back down in the chair and said, you got this, I'm going to sit over here in the corner. I don't want to interfere with what you're doing. Frankly, there wasn't an opportunity to have an argument about it. It was a very busy time, and so we pressed on. And I do not remember that there was a photographer in the room at all, so that when that came out, it was as a surprise to me as it was anyone else.